Hi readers, Lee here. Welcome back to my channel, Lila Wanders and Reads, and welcome to my weekend books with some special effects thanks to the early morning sun, or mid-morning sun. Anywho, today I am drinking a Boylan's Black Cherry. Tried to make it pretty by dipping it in honey and sprinkles, but it's a pretty big mess. So if I end up with sprinkles in my lips, oh well, I'm kind of a mess myself. Boylan's also makes a Shirley Temple, and that is my favorite. I've bought 3 so far, drank 2, I've got 1 in the fridge chilling, but I decided to try the black cherry. This is my first sip of the black cherry. It's good, but if I'm going to go like straight sugar, I'm going to go with that Shirley Temple, because that was delicious. Anywho, that is not why we're here. We're here to talk about my weekend books. And y'all, it's getting better, but I'm still having some problems settling in the evenings, which is why I started with these mocktails and everything to try to like create a routine for me. So I know I sit down, I have a mocktail, I read. But last night I'd hoped to finish a book that I ended up not finishing. But partly because I had football on in the background, and Auburn and Alabama were playing, and there was a fight on the sidelines, and, you know, naturally I had to stop my book, rewind a bit, and watch what happened. But, I can't believe it is the end of November already. It is December 1st when I'm recording this. This will post tomorrow on the 2nd, and I was in complete denial until I was looking at my Facebook memories today, and I saw my November reading recap from last year, and I was like, oh shit, the month is over. So, anywho, this is where we are this week. Next week, blah, 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 blah. Next week, and I'll try to remember to mention this at the end, I'm going to do my November reading recap on Tuesday, I believe. Not sure, don't hold me to it. Sorry, I write myself a note so I don't forget it. I know, you didn't come here to watch me write notes, did you? Anywho. Alright, so let's get to what we read this week. Now, I started off I started the week with a book that I thought was going to be a surefire winner. It was going to drag me down into it, and I wasn't going to be able to put it down. Because it was a book by Nora Roberts, whom I love. This is The Mirror, the second in the Lost Bride trilogy. The first book, Inheritance, I read last year, really enjoyed it. This book, I thought it was just me. My friend Dina also had some issues with it. She felt that it was dragging. And for so long in this, I felt like it was still me having an issue. But, and it took me this long to realize it wasn't me. And here's what I wrote right here, when I kind of realized it, when it came to me that, yeah, I have been struggling on reading, and I'm going to continue to struggle until I don't, but in this book, it wasn't me. So I wrote, great world building, not enough action. When I read that they were going to go to the garden center, I was like, ugh. And then there's 6 to 7 pages of them fucking gardening. And that's not just, it didn't just happen here. The whole book was like that. Them making meals, and them, you know, there's so little action. Nora Roberts does a great thing with world building that I love. She makes me relate to her characters and want to, and feel like I can see them and want to actually interact with them. And I know Nora personally likes, I don't know Nora personally. I know that Nora herself likes to garden a lot. She puts it on her blog. It is out there publicly. I feel like this is Nora being Nora in the gardening part and doing her world building throughout, but she forgot to have some action. Maybe it was just filler to get to the next book, but it dragged out, and nothing even happens at the end. There's no, like, they go on a boat ride, and then there's no cliffhanger, no climax. It's just, like, meh. And just another thing, you know, all writers have quirks. Nora has hers, and you can take issue with them or not, but everybody does. I have my own quirks. I'm sure I'll go back through my videos and see my own quirks. But this male main character, I mean, I guess he's a main character. I really didn't fucking care about him or the other guy. But, like, something would happen to his love interest, the female main character, who's actually a main character. And he'd be like, I need to know about this. Bruh, we're fucking. We're not married. You don't need to know about everything. And that was just a pet peeve of mine. But yeah, nothing happened in this. And that makes me really sad. Because the premise is great. Sonia inherited a house from an uncle she never knew. It's haunted by a number of spirits, one of whom is Hester Dobbs, the witch who cursed the family more than 2 centuries ago, murdered its brides through the generations, 7, and still wants revenge. So Sonia inherits this house. She goes to the house and takes up residence. She has to, according to the will. I don't remember exactly why. I didn't reread the first. When I started this, I was like, oh, I'll reread the first and the second before I get to the third. When the third comes out next year, no, I'll buy it, but I'm not going to reread this shit. So anyway, there's this magic mirror that appears, and she goes through it, and that happens throughout this book, but she just sees stuff. Nothing really happens, she just sees stuff, and she's supposed to catch these rings, get these rings back so she could break the curse, but she doesn't even get one ring back. Nothing happens in this book. It's so frustrating. And it makes me really sad. I think Nora Roberts is better than this. I'm afraid that she has reached her peak and gone to the other side. I feel like, and I'll talk about this down the road, only actually this isn't one of my least favorite. She and Stephen King, they're about the same age, and I feel like they're kind of in the same place where they were, both of them have been favorites and steady throughout my lifetime. Of course, because they're older than me, but they've been writing my whole life. And I've always reached for King and Roberts in times of when I needed comfort or when things were uncertain or unstable, and I just needed something that I could hold on to that I knew was solid. King and Roberts have always been that for me. And I will continue to buy and read their books until they stop publishing. I just feel like the stuff that both of them are producing right now is not as great as the stuff that they produced in the past. And that's all I say. I do not mean anything. I mean it negative. I don't mean it, I don't know how to say this. It's a negative thing that I'm saying. However, I love them, and I will, like I said, I will always buy their work. I don't mean anything against them personally. I just feel the writing is not what I want from them. So, maybe it's just me. It makes me really sad to say that for both of them. You know what doesn't make me sad? William March's The Bad Seed. Wait, you know what? Scratch that. It does make me sad, but not for the reasons that you'll think. First of all, I loved this book. I read this for an online book club, which we had to delay because nobody had read it before Thanksgiving. I had an assumption about this book. It did not end up being true. Like, I guessed what the twist was going to be. I was wrong. what I want to address is this. I have said that I'm on my feminist shit, and I am a feminist, and will continue to read about women and strong women and speak about it. But this, I want to address the forward, and then I want to talk about something about the author. You know, this Anna Holmes, I don't know who she is. She wrote the forward for this one. She talks about Rhoda boasting an old-fashioned name, stereotypically feminine, highly controlled style of dress and disposition, etc., etc., etc. She says that, sorry, my nose is running a little bit, that one gets the sense that Mr. March is not so much celebrating expressions of female power and agency as fearing them. And she talks about Elaine Showalter, who did a intro to the 1997 edition, who says that as in much of March's writing, women in the bad seed are more sinister than men. She swats at him for the book's implicit message that at the root of much conflict and societal upheaval are castrating wives and mothers. Could be true. I think Anna Holmes comes a little bit closer to what I got out of it, though. She says if there's anything in the bad seed that resonates strongly today, it's the ways in which acts of violence are celebrated as legitimate responses to thwarted entitlement. But that's the part of the problem with America, not with its boys or girls. So I'm torn on whether to do this all the time or not. I actually looked up William March because of that intro prior to reading this. And what I got was something completely different. And so I read it through this filter, through this lens. And let me, I have to find my glasses. And I'm going to read from my phone from the Encyclopedia of Alabama.org. I will try to remember to put a link down in the description box. So, William March, born and raised in Alabama, much of his writing is set in Alabama, but he was also a decorated war hero. And I'm going to read verbatim from the website so I don't fuck it up. With World War I raging in Europe, March enlisted as a private in the U.S. Marine Corps in June 1917, and his service would become the defining experience of his life. Went through boot camp, yada yada yada. February 1918. Arriving in France in February 1918, March was assigned to the Marine Brigade in the Army's 2nd Division and took part in several notable actions. He was wounded for the first time at the Battle of Belleau Woods in June and spent part of that summer in the hospital recovering. He returned to duty in time to participate in the Aisne-Marne offensive in July and participated in the Battle of St. Mihiel in September. Pardon my pronunciation, guys, I'm winging it. Promoted in rapid succession to corporal and then to sergeant, March received the French Croix de Guerre and the Distinguished Service Cross and Navy Cross, the U.S.'s second highest decorations for bravery in combat, for his actions in the assault on Blanquemont Ridge, a key German stronghold east of Rheims, in October 1918. He left a front-line dressing station to recover wounded men under fire and, despite being wounded himself, aided in repelling a German counterattack. Although March recovered physically from his wounds, the psychological trauma of hand-to-hand combat would plague him for the rest of his life. He also wrote a book called Company K, which I am definitely going to get. Unfortunately, it's not available at my local Barnes & Noble, so I'll have to get it from the Zon or someplace else. So anyway, I had read that, and then I went into the Bad Seed, and what I felt that this was really a treatise on violence. And what, first of all, I realized that true crime, the love of true crime, isn't something new. But I really felt this was a treatise on violence in many fashions. And I absolutely loved it. I started watching the movie, which wasn't, he died in, I forgot what year, of a heart attack after The Bad Seed was published, but before the movie. It was before the movie came out. I don't know if he even was aware that it was going to come out. I don't remember. But, anywho, I'm kind of lost my focus there. The one thing I did about the female... So there's all this stuff about Rhoda knowing exactly what to do and how to do it to manipulate people. She doesn't care about them. She's a psychopath. But then later on, Christine, her mother, is going to a man trying to get some information out of him. Then, touching his arm, her head tilted to one side and lowered in gracious surrender of her mind to his. Blah, blah, blah. So she's doing the same thing. So it could be comparing female wiles to the manipulations of a psychopath. Because they only do it with Christine here that I remember. I don't remember the men doing it at all. So there could be definitely a negative look at females and women and girls in this book. But when I read it, except for that one part, I really saw it as a commentary on violence, and I read it knowing that he struggled with PTSD, and he could have had some mother issues, so I just can't find that much about him. But I'm apt to be a little bit more forgiving because of the post-traumatic stress that we know he suffered with the rest of his life. Probably not going to go up in my favorite books of the year. But it is a really good read. I'm glad that I voted for this and that everybody else voted to read this as well in the book club. I still haven't finished the movie. I think I said that. I don't know if I will or not. It diverts pretty significantly, at least at one part, from the book. So I did not have to worry. I'm glad I didn't watch the movie. That unlike the Ira Levin movies, this does not follow the book letter by letter. So, I'm glad I didn't, because then I would have been confused on why that's weird. My ring light just came on. Like, no, I didn't even touch it. Okay, I'm done babbling right now. My third book, the third book that I started and finished, was Elevation by Stephen King. This was 146 pages. It was a really short read. And I picked this up last year. This is one of the books that was featured in my first published YouTube video. And last week, I think, I did a video looking at the books that I had done in that book haul but hadn't read, which was all but 2. So I said, okay, I'll pick one from there and I'll read that. And that one I chose was Elevation because it was short, because it was a holiday weekend. And I thought this was a cute short story. Right before I read it, I got on Goodreads and I looked at Sadie Hartman, aka Mother Horror, gave it a negative review. Several other people gave it a negative review. I did not find it to be as negative. And probably it's because of when I'm reading it compared to when it was published. It was published in 2018. That's when Sadie read it. It's 2024 now. We're going into the second Trump administration. Stephen King is very vocal about his dislike of Trump. He is in here as well. This was in the first administration. And in some other books, I've found it very abrupt. Sadie mentions he lacks finesse. Concur. 100% concur. But I felt like this, it was just up at the beginning. And then towards the end, it was just about his relationship with the couple and the doctor and his wife. And so, because it didn't hit me the way it hit them. So I found this an enjoyable, light read. I'm not sure sure what was the point, but sometimes I don't think a book needs a point. Except, you know, maybe, I don't know, maybe the point was to be kind. I have no idea. Anywho, I enjoyed it. Is it his best work? Absolutely not. I have my favorite Stephen King era, and that was the cocaine era. But I don't want him to continue to be on cocaine. It's best that he's not, but the books that he wrote in that era were my favorite. Okay, so I'm currently reading Chloe Cates is Missing by Mandy McHugh. This is, I will tell you what it's about. I'll read the back. I didn't do that for any of these. Sorry. But this was recommended to me by Mother Horror. I'm going to read the back and then I'll tell you what I think about it so far. I am just shy of halfway through. Almost got to halfway last night, but didn't. That Alabama game got me distracted. And then I was watching the Oregon game. That also distracted me. I don't think there were any fights in that one. Chloe Cates is Missing. The 13-year-old star of the hit web series CC and Me has disappeared, and nobody knows where she's gone, least of all ruthless momager Jennifer Scarborough, who has spent much of her daughter's young life crafting a child celebrity persona that is finally beginning to pay off. And in Chloe's absence, the faux fairy tale world that supported that persona begins to fracture, revealing secrets capable of reducing the dysfunctional Scarborough family to rubble. Oh, it's happening, bud. Anxious to find her daughter, I'm not sure that she is, and preserve the life she's worked so hard to build, Jennifer turns to social media for help. But the hearsay, false claims, and salacious suspicions only multiply. As the search becomes as sensational as Chloe's series, there are a lot of S's in this blurb, missing persons detective Emelina Stone steps in, only to realize she knew it from the start. She has a connection to this case herself. Will she be able to stay the objective and cut through the rumors to find the truth before it's too late? Told from multiple points of view, including Jennifer, Emelina, and pages from Chloe's lost diary, Chloe Cates is Missing is a suspenseful novel of a child pushed to the brink and of the troubled family that desperately needs her back. I am not sure that last part of it is true. Let me tell you about Jennifer. I can't stand her. This is probably one of the most unlikable characters that I have read. Merlin? I thought my cat was crying. Maybe it's outside. In a long time. He was just right here. And she is so unlikable that it's almost to the point that it's unbelievable. In fact, at one point yesterday afternoon, I was like, is this too unbelievable? And then I recalled that recently I've watched 2 documentaries about social media moms abusing their children. So no, it's not unbelievable at all. I still don't know where Chloe is. Probably a good thing because I got a good bit of book left. So far, this one is good. Very short chapters, keeps me reading. There is something that's happened in the past between Jennifer and Emelina. Anyway, I don't know what it is. Let me see what I've got marked here. I really can't stand Jennifer. Yeah, Abby's journal, very fascinating. Abby's journal tells a different story. I don't know how this family stays together in the end. The husband's already, and has already even before this, considered divorcing her. The teenage son can't stand her. I can't stand her. No one likes Jennifer. No one likes Jennifer because she is a ruthless momager. It is all about Jennifer. So, I like the book because if an author can make me feel that strong of a dislike for a character, I mean, that's skill. You could do it a lesser gifted, a lesser skilled author could write somebody that's dislikable, but make it feel thin and stereotypical. This is not. It's not. Anywho, first book is still Lonesome Dove, which I'm determined to finish before the end of the year, but I only have 31 days, and I need to recalculate how much I need to read per day, because in this Thanksgiving holiday break, you know how much of this I've read? Nothing. I have not read. I might have read 21 pages one day, and then I forget about it, because it's my first book, and so it's not out in the open. And again, this is a good read. It's readable. I just need to remember that and set a time to read my now much more than 21 pages, I'm sure. Anywho, so Lonesome Dove won the Pulitzer Prize. It doesn't say much about it on the back. I think I'm gonna watch was it a miniseries? Anyhow, I think I'm gonna watch that later. A love story, an adventure, and an epic of the frontier, Larry McMurtry's Pulitzer Prize winning classic, Lonesome Dove, the third in the Lonesome Dove tetralogy, is the grandest novel ever written about the last defiant wilderness of America. This is the third book in the tetralogy. I think it's the first one that was published / written. Journey to the dusty little Texas town of Lonesome Dove, and meet an unforgettable assortment of heroes and outlaws, whores and ladies, Indians and settlers. Richly authentic, beautifully written, and always dramatic, Lonesome Dove is a book to make us laugh, weep, dream, and remember. And I'll say this, I love the sense of humor in this. I don't have everything. I have a couple things tabbed that I was like, that made me laugh out loud. Although this one I gotta share, because this one I can relate to. Getting up early and feeling awake was the one skill he had never truly perfected. He got up, of course, but it never felt natural. #same, buddy. Same. So, I'm going to recalculate how much I need to read to... Lost my Carmex. To finish that before the end of the year, and I'll try to get to that. On the audiobook front, I swore up and down that I was not going to read any more audiobooks for at least through the holidays or through the end of the year. But I started listening to the Skystone by Jack Whyte. This is the first of 9 books called the Camelot Chronicles. It is based on the Arthurian legend, and I've read all but the last 2 books of this. I've read this one. I wanted to revisit this because I've got another series that I'm, Camelot series, that I'm just got in and want to read. But I didn't want to... These are 500 pages long. This one's 500 pages long. You know, with fantasy, they get longer and longer and longer. So I decided to listen to it. I am only on like chapter 3, but I only started this like 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago. It is a slower read. I've got to kind of figure out my groove on this. I don't know if I'll listen to all 9 back to back to back. There's so much that I want to listen to and read and experience, and just not enough time. I'll talk about time cubby holes later in the week. Anywho, that is it for me. That's my week in books. I'd love to hear what you read this past week. Have you read any of these that I mentioned? Do you have opinions on them? I'd love to hear from you down in the comments. I really like to engage with people and talk about good books, good reading, etc. As always, thank you for sticking with me on this journey. I will be back next week with... Oh, Lord. Okay. Lost my card. I will be back next week with my November reading recap. Tomorrow and Wednesday, I've got my 2 posts on the New York Times 100 Most Notable Books of 2024. Next week, hopefully, the New York Times is set to Actually, this week, the New York Times is set to announce their top 10. And next week, I will possibly do a post on that top 10 if I have any and if I've read any. Oh, we'll see. Who knows? Anywho, that is it for me. Happy reading.